From the mountains to the mysterious to the skies above, it is Tim Seanor's UFO report coming up right now. Let's bring in the Tim bit.
Nobody's gonna know.
They're gonna know.
Tim Seanor, it's always good to have you back on the show. And, especially after listening to Courtney Marchesani the first couple of hours tonight and her insider information on what's going on, it was a real eye-opener on what truly is happening in ufology these days, man.
Yeah, what a great show tonight. That was enthralling, and I definitely learned a lot. And I guess that comes with years and years of experience and talking with insiders. She's a wealth of knowledge. That was a great show.
Very much so. Very much so. I mean, it also shows you the scariness behind the scenes and the posturing, not only for government officials, but one of the points that I made to Courtney and to our audience, and I'm sure I'm going to pat you and me on the back here a little bit, okay? Because sometimes we deserve it, okay? And that is, we called it out where we said that politicians were going to start turning on this subject because there's going to be those backroom talks from the military industrial complex that say, hey, you know that military contract you guys have to build those widgets for our tanks or those tires for our F-35s? Yeah, if you continue this UFO support, we may move that contract elsewhere. And she's saying that those talks are going on right now. That's what's happening. And this is why many politicians are starting to, and we'll get into this one story tonight, are starting to waver and say, well, maybe there's nothing there. Do we really need to be spending money on more hearings and making our Defense Department look, uncredible and everything? I mean, what's your thoughts on that, man? That's big news.
It is, but it's also predictable, as we had discussed. And, a lot of people are even saying that this UFO topic is a gold mine. And so it's no surprise that politicians are diving into that gold mine, if you will, and getting on board, not just with the scientists and the organizations with their hands out, as we discussed and was discussed earlier, also by Courtney, that even Enigma Labs is getting involved. And so there must be a money grab at some point, or at least a tech grab. And I think that, is always going to be the root of the interest when it comes to this topic.
Yeah, you know what? It's very scary. It's very scary that we're seeing this play right out in front of us, and there's nobody calling it out. There's nobody calling out the military industrial complex. There's nobody talking about the political posturing of what's going on. And this is where I think our audience here on Spaced Out Radio really benefits, because you do a great job of bringing us the news during the week. We try and paint that picture with our guests and the information that we get on a weekly basis of what's going on, and I think, I mean, we can always do more, we can always do better, but I think what we have told our audience is watch out for this. It's going to come. And every time we say that, it happens, Tim. We
That's
knew
right.
we knew David Grush, that somebody was going to dig some crap up on David Grush. We called it here on the UFO report. What happened? We called it when politicians were going to start wavering. We asked when it was going to happen due to the military industrial complex. It's starting. Everything that we tell our audience, watch out for it, it happens. It really does. And it points us in a real picture of accuracy.
It does. And I think following the headlines and kind of reading what's going on that makes those headlines is really important, and, also keeping a really level head when it comes to this topic. And when you see a video or a headline, to remain level headed on it, not activate or, get emotional over these things, but rather consider it and analyze it, if you will. And, the public perception of this topic is massive because not everyone has the experience or knowledge. And so, without that direct experience, or perhaps a deeper understanding, or maybe a belief, without already having that behind you, this topic can be a little overwhelming. And the last thing we want is to have a pylon when it comes to this topic, because there's a potential dollar sign behind it, whether it's politicians or people that are on this side or that side of the topic. Again, you have to consider the information and analyze it, because there's always some motivation behind whatever information you're getting, whether it's a video or it's a headline. Usually it's motivated by something when it comes to this topic right now. And it's really tricky to navigate. So, whether it's a fake video or a real video or a headline that kind of moves you because it's on a topic that's kind of hitting close to home, whether it's a whistleblower headline or how disclosure is being handled. Again, it's important to remain very level headed on this topic because there's a lot of information.
Yeah, there really is a lot of information that is coming out. And let's get to your first story of the night here on the UFO report. And it's a reaction from Chris Mellon, who has been playing this political game for a number of years. And, this goes on to the point about potential, disbanding of future UFO hearings. This is exactly what we're talking about.
Indeed. It feels like there's getting another push from the other side. And, there are articles being written on exactly what the other side of this topic is. Who's pushing against the disclosure from whistleblowers such as David Grush? Who's pushing against the quote unquote truth that we're all looking for here on this topic? So, in a quote here, Christopher Mellon says, sadly, it appears that there's little prospect at this time of further hearings on the UAP issue by the House Oversight Committee. However, the Intelligence and Armed Services Committees remain engaged, and there's a far-reaching legislation in the DoD bill that establishes a process for declassifying unprecedented amounts of UAP data. And then recently, we've also had a quote that came from Michio Kaku, saying that there's an abundance of data currently, and physicists such as himself have been inundated with videos from all sorts of sources. And so I found that incredibly compelling, knowing that in a further quote, he's saying that we need more data and hard evidence, and we're getting it. And he says that they're getting information that confirms that these things can move between Mach 3 and Mach 20 almost instantaneously with G forces in the hundreds. And he goes on to say that there's evidence of them moving in and out of the water and calling it transmedium. And he's saying, now, where's the wreckage? Because really, that's next. We need to know the metallurgy of this stuff. And since we have the videotapes from Navy pilots, and that's being analyzed frame by frame, since there's plenty of data at this point, why is it not up to the military now to prove that this is not extraterrestrial? And he's saying, in fact, that there is, now a different kind of push, and that he's saying there's a change in the UFO sighting world, in that the burden of proof has shifted. And now the military has to prove that this is not extraterrestrial. I find that incredibly compelling, knowing that Christopher Mellon just came out with this bold statement saying that really he doesn't see a future there. It sounds like science world is saying that there's plenty of data and it should be expressed, and they need to push further with the House Oversight Committee with this, not let off.
Hmm. Well, I agree with Chris Mellon because this is a major dart and a major arrow pointed at the UFO bullseye right now. Okay, and now all that hard work that he has been doing over the years, whether you love him or hate him, we don't know the work that Chris Mellon has been doing behind the scenes. What we do know is that he has been lobbying with his knowledge of Washington, politicians who are needing education on this subject, to the reality of it. And I believe that he now has to figure out, along with whoever his team is, we would assume Lou Elizondo is still part of that team. He has to figure out how to get around the military industrial complex now. He has to figure out how he is going to convince senators and congress people how to argue successfully against the threats of having military contracts pulled from their state. Because remember, one of the successful things that the United States military has done is they have spiderwebbed the building of their tanks, their guns, their vehicles, their airplanes, their naval ships, their submarines, helicopters, whatever. They have done a great job at spreading out the building of those pieces. So you may have lug nuts built in Kentucky for tires while the airplane is being made in Missouri, but the cockpit is being made in California. Okay. But they're going to bring it all together in wherever. Okay. And that's where they put the pieces together to build these craft or tanks or whatever it may be. So it is a reality, Tim.
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. And the fact is that some of the statements that were made by David Grush were leading to that. And we know that not too long ago, in the beginning of the month, I think around the 7th or so, General Mark Miley came out and didn't really debunk David Grush as much as kind of give a little bit of a pushback, although we may have seen some support on some of the statements that were made when it came to the underground programs and things like that. Definitely, he was not in support of any of those statements. Um, Now, he had said that he has seen, some weird and wild stuff, but there's still no data or evidence in his words, which you may have your own opinion of, but um, that is pretty much what we're getting from the Pentagon. And a lot of people believe that that is the big source of the pushback. Like they're willing to talk about a certain element of this. And I'd love to talk deeper on this because there's been a lot of talk on why some of this is okay to talk about and why some of it just isn't. And it all kind of leads back to spending and the fact that whenever it comes to UAP, in particular UAP, it's associated with national security and it being an issue, you know. And so that's why you're seeing those things being linked and it being so sensitive. Now, UFOs and aliens, that's a little easier to talk about, believe it or not, because it's not so sensitive. And so we're seeing a little less pushback on that sort of thing because it's very vague and there's really no trail of any substance.
Little Timmy Seanor and the UFO report will continue when we return on Spaced Out Radio. Michio Kaku talking UFOs. Congress leader Stonewalled. Oh yeah, we got a lot more to cover on this topic when we return on Spaced Out Radio with the UFO report. We'll be right back. Message to Gong Show. I have freed your other profile that was accidentally blocked. I have freed it. Oh. Hello, Anya. How are you? Wow, it's been a while since we've seen you. Timmy. Timmy.
Moving to Canada. Timmy.
Moving to Canada. I'm going to have a new neighbor here. Did you talk to the wife?
Oh, you're not going to like the response.
Oh, she said no way, eh?
I think it's like way too far out there, eh? Like boonies, yeah. I think there may have been a street view at some point I may have been able to convince her of, but yeah.
There is a Google Street View.
There is indeed. There is indeed. I mean, she's a Cali girl. Like,
she's not going to like the cold, dude.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it is great. Nice place to visit. I could probably get her to come visit.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, no roof, no doors. This guy.
Uh-huh.
Looks over at me. I'm blue. And he's like, oh, would you like me to turn the heat on? I'm like, yeah.
That was a nice night, though.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Crystal clear. Frigid.
You should feel it at night now.
Forget about it.
I had to put a vest on the other day.
Oh, my God. A vest. There was a wind chill factor. You know, we were driving, too. Plus, you know, no hair. I have a head for radio.
Donna Elisino, welcome to SOR chat. How are you? I like your picture. Look at that picture. What is that? Like, oh, that's like the Northern Lights there.
Yeah.
Bunch of different colors there. Very nice. Very nice. She's like, hey, hey, hey. Check it out. Hey, hey, hey.
Man, AI is taking over already.
Uh-huh.
I love it. I think that was AI artwork for the Northern Lights right there.
Either way, it's gorgeous. Gorgeous. Hey, Voices, how are you? Voices. Ooh, when is little Timmy Seanor going to tell us about his new alien friend? No, you got all of it.
Friends. Plural.
When in doubt, Tim will agree with me on this. When in doubt, blame Samantha Mowat.
Delivers
every time.
Yikes. Yeah.
So wait till we do it again.
It's unbelievable. Like, even, yeah, unbelievable. I mean, if I didn't live it and have cameras, I wouldn't believe it. But yeah, good stuff.
Uh-huh. She is pretty amazing, isn't she?
Definitely. I mean, she took the time to like go and read people that were just like hanging out in the audience watching us film in the downtime in between filming. I was like, where's Sam now? She's like off helping someone else, delivering information. People are like blown away. I see just like glazed over eyes. I'm like, I get it. I know. Go sit down.
Mhm.
Like, you're gonna have to think this one through. Takes time. Yeah.
Just remember, dude, the scary part about Samantha is every time we shoot now, every time, we're going to have to keep our eyes out for what's not supposed to be there.
Right.
But shows up
Yeah.
just for the hell of it and the potatoes. Big thank you to Sandra, Kira, Mike, Paul, Philip, Deb times two, Human Carl, Monica, Enki, W. Decker, Debster times two, Pam H, and Louie times two for the super chats. Here we go, everybody. We got one more segment here on Spaced Out Radio tonight. The UFO report continues with little Timmy Seanor. My name is Dave Scott, your host, behind the scenes of SOR headquarters. Glad you could join us. Reminder to all of you that if you missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and join our Space Travelers Club on Patreon. Tim Seanor returns, and we're going to continue talking about the progress of ufology. Where is it going? Tim, Bipartisan House Group is pushing for a select committee classified hearings into UFOs. I mean, this goes against the grain of what we just talked about, doesn't it?
It does, but at the same rate, this is what we are pushing for right now as far as the UFO disclosure topic goes. And so they're actually calling for a committee that has subpoena power, really. And so the supporters of that are Representatives Burchett, Luna, Moskowitz, and Getz. And of course, we're getting pretty vocal interviews coming from Tim Burchett in particular. And so we've also seen, very interestingly, the fact is that we're almost having a clash coming from both sides where we'll get a push from the people that are looking to get transparency on disclosure rather, and then the other side. And the other side has had a big question mark in front of it as to who's pushing back against this clarity. And now it seems like the obvious answer would be Pentagon, but who are those players? And who in particular is pushing back? Now, vocally, we've seen recently General Mark Miley came out in a very vague attempt to kind of debunk portions of what David Grush had said publicly in his whistleblower hearing statements. But again, he did make some admissions that there are some weird and wild things in the air, but we don't have any evidence for it. And when it comes to the secret programs or government spending on black budgets, definitely no support there. And that is not a topic that wants to be discussed, at least by the government or the Pentagon representatives. So we're definitely seeing bipartisanship coming, at least for the topic itself in Congress. And we know that public information on the UAP topic, at least, is having difficulty continuing their effort after that blockbuster committee hearing last month. And it's simply because of all of the pushback that we're seeing from the quote unquote mysterious other side.
So if I get this right, are they wanting to push this topic more behind the curtains again in order to have these hearings so the politicians get to learn what's going on? And that way they're keeping it out of the public eye and out of the public perspective. I mean, that sounds exactly like what you're telling me.
Potentially, but I think more along the lines of controlling the narrative on disclosure and making sure that any kind of links to any historical information is going to be kept quiet. Now, a lot of people believe, and in fact, a recent interview was done on a redacted podcast with Dr. Michael Salla discussing the hype surrounding the UFO whistleblowers and the potential buildup for the talk of potential alien invasion, right? And so, the fake alien invasion rather, and calling it potential cover up for disclosure. Now, the point being is that because UFOs are always painted with the national security threat paintbrush, um, it's going to get the same attention potentially as it would if it was considered a big problem. And so that's why the alien invasion potential, I know it's laughable almost to say, but have the fake alien invasion thing come from the government. And it kind of lines up as every UAP report coming in under the national security threat. How do you feel about that opinion?
Well, I mean, look, we've often heard people from Stephen Greer to others talk about this potential of a false flag alien invasion that I've never really believed would actually happen. Okay, I've had a little bit more confidence in those what's going on, but I mean, Tim, this is such a difficult topic. I mean, if we are actually seeing this subject go back behind the curtains, anything is now on the table. It really is on the table trying to find out the real story behind it. And we're not going to find that real story if by chance, just by chance, they are wanting to cover up what could be life-changing news for humanity, whether it's free energy or whether it's how to live longer or curing diseases or what have you. Okay, like this is I mean, the other interesting part is, you know, this whole thing comes, and I hate to say this, where there's other conspiracy reports out there that there's going to be more mandates put out there come this fall and this winter. And let's hope that doesn't happen to shut things down again. Okay, so I mean, is this all kind of coming into fruition due to wanting to control population, control the thoughts on the ideas? We don't know. We have to see how everything plays out again, Tim.
Yeah, and I mean, potentially, it's all just to protect the fact that the truth in what Grush was saying was that there were improperly run projects in the DoD, and they're desperately trying to redact, backpedal, and eke their way out of that part of the statement.
Hmm. Absolutely. I mean, but what are they going to cover up? Is it alien life? Is it more about the technology that we have or that we've gained from these people? Well, maybe not these people, but these extraterrestrial uh, visitors.
Well, I think some of the bold statements that Grush made were that lives were lost over this topic, kind of insinuating how maybe whistleblowers have been handled. And we see how whistleblowers are handled across the board, and they're making headlines in other topics too. In other aspects of the United States, whistleblowers lose their jobs or are silenced financially. One way or another, you see this happening in all kinds of fields. So it's no surprise that we've heard this coming from this topic as well. So that's a pretty big deal right there. And so I imagine that they're pretty desperate for that kind of information not to become at least public.
Right. Right. Tim, I don't like this. It's not feeling very comfortable. I don't know how you feel about it. Should the UFO world be concerned?
You know, I don't think so because really, of all the nefarious things that have happened, they have gone on one way without affecting anyone that we personally know, because so far we haven't had any names, we haven't had any locations, we haven't been given any details. So until we know who directly has been affected, well, I don't know how to address it, right? I need more data. I need more information. And so for right now, it's just a story, and I think that's the frustrating aspect. Should the UFO community be concerned? Well, I think so, because, we could be being used as a pawn in something that's just much deeper, and we may never get any information on UFOs. Now, the flip side of that coin is, are we going to hopefully get some historical information, some facts, historical UFO facts on people that have really been hurt, or some real locations, or some real artifacts? Then that
I
would
th-
be beneficial.
Tim, some of the things that I've learned over the last few weeks is that there are a number of private defense groups out there around the world, not just in the US or Canada, that are quietly and secretly putting money into this project. Okay, this project not only of UFOs but of the entire phenomena, to try and figure out how it's happening, what are the results of it all. Okay, can we track this stuff? Can we not only track it, can we maybe predict when it's going to happen, when sightings are going to occur? And this just isn't UFOs, everybody. This is Bigfoot. This is crop circles. This is Wendigo sightings. This is cattle mutilations. This is everything that's going on. Ghost spirits, you name it. We have the ability to know that there are a number of special interest groups out there who are tied to governments through defense contracts or whatever, who are secretly studying this stuff or
Indeed.
are looking for budget to do so. Enigma Labs being one of them. Okay. I do see a day where this entire phenomena goes behind the closed door again, and we're back to being, the rejects of society because we believe that this happened. And all the skeptics are going to stand up and sit there and say, well, you had your day in the sun. Okay, now shut up about it again. We don't want to hear any more of this crap. The government already came out and said it doesn't exist. What more do you want? I see that happening while the government side starts cherry picking the information that they want to get from people. And now all of these people who are trying to play disclosure for dollars are going to be running to the government looking for that money and say, yeah, we won't do podcasts. We won't do YouTube channels. We won't do television shows. We just want to work on this subject. I see that happening. I don't want to see it happen, but I do see it happening.
Well, I see this gold mine, if you will, this train going for as long as it can. We know that a lot of people got on board with this recently, whether it's for clout, social media clout, or whether it's for dollars, quite literally, or whether it's big companies that are investing deeply, such as Enigma and others that are trying to ascertain a budget, perhaps, for scientific research. Now, I think at this point, with the government and the Congress demanding that there be more answers and more data on it, there's, a bunch of people that can take something that is called the quote unquote phenomenon and create abundant amounts of data by harvesting the internet and other ways, and experiencers themselves, because we know that that is truly the source. And that's why we know that for scientists to shrug off the experiencer is laughable, because that's the source of almost all of their data, unless they're practical scientists and they're doing research on the ground, boots on the ground sort of thing. So But I digress. The point that you're making is totally valid, and I think the fact is that I don't think that there is going to be a near end to this gold mine dollar train that we're seeing being driven by the UFO topic. I think we're going to see more attention, more films. Steven Spielberg is even getting on board with his new films. I think we're going to see more and more interest and dollars being spent on this topic. And I think floating the reality of it is doing a massive benefit to everyone involved at this point. And, I'm enjoying it. You're enjoying it. Now we know that there may be some nefarious reasons coming from politicians and the government, um, and people that are seeking dollars from this. But it has never been highlighted so much, as far as I've seen, from the media and social media ever before.
Oh, I agree. I agree. But I think what's going to happen here is a lot of that is going to die off the minute the information stops flowing. Okay. Because the majority of people out there right now have come into ufology in the last 6 years. Okay. And when you look at it, because they haven't categorically gone through the history of everything. Sorry, I'm trying to block a sneeze here for our radio audience. Um, when they haven't gone through the history where they don't care about Roswell, their ufology started with Lou Elizondo, the Nimitz incident, TTSA, and everything. I think a lot of those people are going to drop. They're going to drop their podcasts. They're going to drop their YouTube channels. Okay. They're going to step aside and say, you know what? We tried. I've spent 6 years looking into this. It's time to move on to my golf game or my fishing game or playing video games on Twitch. That's what I see happening. For the experiencer, we just dig our heels in and go a little bit further. Your thoughts, Tim?
Well, after having statements from people like Michio Kaku, who says that they are receiving plenty of data, and as a physicist, he is doing research all the time on this topic. His desk seems to be full of either validating or invalidating the data that he's receiving. And he describes things that are moving at Mach speeds of Mach 3 to Mach 20, and things being transmedium and G forces in the hundreds. And he's looking for more information. He wants to see the wreckage. He's looking for, the metallurgy of the craft themselves. He's ready for the next step. He's somebody that is craving more information
Absolutely.
and open to it. So I think that's where we're at. I think the truth of it is that this is a hot topic, and I don't think it's going anywhere. And at some point, um, you know, we'll start highlighting the videos that we can't prove instead of highlighting all the ones we're able to debunk.
I agree with you. And, but we have to remember for every Michio Kaku, there's a Rich Hoffman out there, or there is a Sean Kirkpatrick out there, or a NASA employee who decides to not want to play in this UFO game by saying that nothing ever comes out of the SETI research. Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
look, I mean, we know this. Even scientists are divided down the line. There's ones who want pure science on this and the experiencers to go away. There's scientists out there like Gary Nolan, Jacques Vallée, who've been around forever, who believe that they wouldn't be where ufology wouldn't be where it is without people saying this happened to me. This is what I saw. Okay, and giving great descriptions, anecdotal descriptions of the phenomena happening. So, I mean, I see the battle going back to where we were 10, 15 years ago. I really do. I don't see how it can move forward if those who are trying to move the ball forward are getting stalled at the door by the government. I don't see it happening.
What if Representatives Burchett, Luna, Moskowitz, and Getz get their wish and receive a committee that has subpoena power, and they're able to get people like Eric Davis or Admiral Wilson, people that are, we're not seeing really because of maybe they don't want to come forward, with some subpoena power to be a little more aggressive on whistleblowers or witnesses? Would we get some facts then?
It all depends how deep they go. Okay. I think once these people learn the true phenomena, I think it's scary. I think they're thinking, if I look at somebody like the combination between Beavis and Butthead, Matt Gaetz. Okay, and let's face it, he looks like a combination of both. Okay, no insult to him. It's just the way he looks. Come on, Tim, that's funny. That is funny.
It went over my head. I mean, that's why I keep it close.
All right, whatever. All right, you take somebody like Matt Gaetz who talks about the lights in the sky. Does he even know what an alien abduction is? Does he even know about what it's like to see a gray? Does he really know that there is an entire movement in this phenomena that is happening outside of nuts and bolts military action? You can look at, it doesn't matter whether it's Anna Lula or Matt Gaetz or AOC or Tim Burchett. I think Burchett knows, but how many of the others really know truly what's going on outside of these military sightings? Do they know they're happening in their state? Do they know they're happening every day of the week?
It's a good point. It's a good point. And maybe that's why we saw David Grush at UFO events before, trying to get a feel for what people were experiencing. I mean, that's what I would be doing if I was entering something. I would get a feel for the environment. I mean, even for myself, I've been to events just to see, what the community is like and see if it's something I want to be involved in, even because it's a sensitive subject. And, to have information like Grush, it must have been a big move. It takes a lot of courage, I feel, to do what he did, regardless of how you feel about the information.
Well, on that note, we'll have to wait a couple more nights before we hear from you again, Tim Seanor. Thank you so much for everything you do on the UFO Report. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter and hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. If you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.